Okay, to do the spit splice you need 2 ends of yarn, and the yarn has to be feltable, so it has to be a animal blend like a wool or something like that. This yarn that we're using is 100% wool, so it's going to felt nice and easily. So the first thing we want to do is take one of the ends of yarn and kind of open it up a little bit. Just kind of spread the ends apart about an inch or so, and then the same thing on the other end of our yarn, or the other end, yeah. Separate it out a little bit. And then, as the spit splice suggests, you could just stick these ends in your mouth and get them wet with your spit, which is kind of gross. So I have a little bowl of water right here. So I'm going to dip it in the water just to kind of get it a little bit wet. And I'm going to do the same thing with the other end. Just kind of wet it a little bit. It doesn't need to be soaking. And then I'm going to lay it in my hand, separate the little ends, and the same thing with the other end, like that. Kind of overlap the ends a little bit, and then I'm just going to kind of rub it in between my hands to felt the ends together. Check. It's looking pretty good. We'll give it a couple more. Like that. So the 2 ends have felted together and become one. As this dries, it'll be nice and strong, and when you knit over it, it's gonna just act like one piece of yarn, so there's no ends to weave in. I wouldn't like tug on it because it might come apart, but once you knit with it, it's gonna be perfectly strong and just fine for any project you're working on, and you don't have to weave in any ends, which is why the spit splice is pretty awesome, but it does only work for wool yarns or alpaca, things like that, that have probably, I'd say, at least 60% wool in them, or an animal fiber of some sort. For the Russian join, you can use any yarn. It doesn't matter what it's made out of, just anything will work. This is just a wool and acrylic blend that won't spit splice, so that's why we're going to do the Russian join with it, and for that all we need is a yarn needle. So I'm going to thread one of the ends onto my yarn needle, leave a couple inch tail, and then with my other end of yarn I'm going to start about 4 to 6 inches or so away from the end, and I'm just going to stick my yarn needle through the yarn itself, just down through the middle of the thread like that, and then go back up and down, just kind of in and out of the yarn itself for an inch or so, like that. And then you can give it a tug and pull the other yarn through, the one that's threaded on your needle, pull it through. And then you have your 2 yarns joined together right here in the middle, with the other one woven in and out of the other yarn. And then just leave your tails hanging down, and when you knit, you can knit over this middle section with the 2 yarns held together, and then just keep knitting with your new piece. And then later you can go in with your yarn needle and weave in these ends, so you don't have to tie any knots or anything in your knitting. So this is a handy join if you are using any other yarn that you can't spit splice. So I hope these little tips were helpful for you guys, and I will see you all soon. Bye.